You can't read minds, but you can read patterns. And in a high stakes business, the person who recognizes the pattern first controls the way it unfolds. You control the outcome. And most founders that I coach and consult with, they hate selling on Zoom or on camera. And I can understand why. You feel like you're flying blind. You can't see the other person's body language. You can't feel the energy in the room. You're just staring at this flat two-dimensional box. But that box gives you a lot more information than you might realize. Because if you know what to look for, you can know exactly what your prospect is thinking before they ever even say a word. Hi there, I'm Jonathan W. Pritchard, and I've spent 20 years as a world touring mentalist. My job was to walk up to total strangers and tell them details about their life that I had no business knowing. I didn't use magic powers, I'm not psychic, I used cold reading. I used statistical probabilities and observation to make statements that felt personal to that person. Today, as a revenue architect, I use those exact same skills to close high ticket consulting deals in with folks from 1,400 consulting calls with business owners of all sorts of companies and all sorts of verticals. Doesn't matter. Whatever world you're in, this is going to work for you. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do it. Because here's the number one mistake that 99% of people make on a sales call. They turn it into an interrogation. What's your budget? What keeps you up at night? What are your goals for Q4? What are your deepest, darkest fears about your career and your relationships and you as a person, right? You get real invasive. Now, you think you're doing discovery, but what you're actually doing is lowering your status. When you ask a question, you're taking value and you're asking the client to do all the hard work of figuring this out. And I'm going to tell you, the client is thinking, I don't know. You're the expert. You tell me. I can't tell you in my early days how many times I was like, well, what's your expected conversion rate? What's your expected number of leads? What's your expected cost of acquisition? And they were like, well, you're literally the expert. I need you to tell me. So when you're doing that, that's why they're thinking, I'm coming to this guy because he knows these answers. That's why you're lowering your status. Now, if you want to be seen as a peer or as an authority, you need to stop asking questions and start making statements. So, in the personal media lab, I constantly remind members, do not interrogate, diagnose. See, the doctor doesn't always ask, does it hurt when I poke this? The doctor just says, this is going to hurt, and then he pokes it. He's in control. He controls the frame. And in mentalism, we call this pattern recognition. If you are truly an expert, you've seen the same 3 problems 1,000 times. You know the pattern. The details might change, but the pattern is exactly the same. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be able to solve it exactly the same way over and over again. So instead of asking, what seems to be the problem, you can use kind of a cold reading statement. So instead, say this: I've looked at your current setup. My guess is that you've got great product velocity, but your sales team is struggling to articulate the value prop to enterprise buyers. I mean, you might be getting meetings, but they aren't closing. Is that fair? And that's actually exactly a conversation I had with a marketing client, a marketing company, where they were getting lots of enterprise level conversations, but they could not close it. So when you say something like that, when you do that, 2 things happen right away. First, you trigger the "that's exactly it" response. The client feels understood, they feel seen, and that is a massive dopamine hit. They go, finally, somebody who gets it. I've been trying to explain this and nobody can understand it, but this guy just put it into words better than I've ever been able to in less time than it takes me to do it. My goodness, he's the expert. Second, you're demonstrating that competence without bragging about it. You proved that you understand their world better than they do. And that is the very definition of authority. So, here's your homework. Look at your last 10 clients. Find the pattern. What's the one thing that they were all afraid of? What's the one thing that they all lied to themselves about? What's the challenge? And turn that observation into a statement. So next time you get on a call, don't ask them about their pain. Tell them about their pain. Watch their eyes get big and watch their posture change. They lean in. You just read their mind. So by reading their mind, that's actually just the first step, okay? You've diagnosed the problem, you've captured their attention, but now you've got to keep it. So you need to present your solution in a way that's just as psychologically potent as your diagnosis. You can't just ramble about features. You need a narrative structure. And I've used a specific 3-part framework on stage and in boardrooms for 20 years to hold attention. And it's the perfect structure for your sales pitch. So I break it down in this video, and I'll see you there.